I'm going to do a quick playthrough of my MVP stage game. That's the initial storyline to get through the introduction. What you can see on screen is this is the play area, and in the background is Godot, where I am developing this game. And so let's get started. First thing we'll do is we'll jump into a new game, which right now this is basically story mode. Story mode is basically how I've kind of approached this game from the standpoint of how does this game progress through a timeline. This is kind of the first thing I came up with. Me and Claude Code ran with it, built a story around it, but this is basically the initial scroll. So we could save a little bit of time here. Basically, the main player inherits a old server room with a couple servers in it from his old Uncle Joe, who mysteriously disappeared. And from there, he starts building and building and building larger data centers until, he progresses through the game. Same thing with the game. You build data centers, you build racks, and then you turn around and you add servers, you add apps, you go through the whole thing. So the introduction is now transitioning over. We're dropped into an office here, and this is Joe's old office. And we're being introduced to Chip. Chip is going to be one of the more interesting players in this game, or one of the more interesting NPCs, because Chip is actually a generative AI chatbot that is going to be the main the main interaction throughout the game, especially when you're trying to understand how to build, how to optimize, how to fix, how to do whatever you're doing in the game. Chip is kind of your assistant, and he is your person that's going to guide you through it. So we can navigate around the office by clicking on different objects, and you just basically get some background story on them. Every single one of these objects was generated with an AI 3D asset generator. So they're just basically placeholders, but this is the general style of the game. I'm going with a 2D or 2.5 isometric fixed view to keep it simple. So we click on the door, we drop into what's actually the server room. When the server room loads with this introduction, you have to power stuff on, you have to bring everything online, and so it kind of has a neat little scene interaction. So you first power it on, see the power light come on, things start flashing. You see the server start booting up. Got a little bit of bug with this asset because it's supposed to go into a blue screen, crash, and then reboot. And that's kind of what's happening now. And as soon as the rack comes online, we can click the rack and go into rack view. Rack view looks very much like a web interface to servers and infrastructure, because that's kind of how I've approached it. Through here, you kind of see what's going on in the rack. You can see how much you're making, how well it's performing, the number of apps, any type of issues. This is kind of where you start managing the game, and you start managing the equipment, the elements, your inventory, all of that. And so you're basically given some dialogue that said these servers are still here. We kind of know what's going on, but we need to reboot them. So we reboot the servers, and you'll see things start coming back online. And now you see that we got everything's working healthy, and let's go check out apps. Apps is where this is going to get interesting. This is where the core of the game loop will be played, and where most users, I hope, will find their day-to-day enjoyment of the game. And so what you're dropped into is you're not looking at a physical rack as you would inside of a data center, because it's just too much and it's not fun to look at. So we're representing each of the servers here by these objects in a grid. And inside that, you can see all the different apps. Over here, you can see this still needs to be cleaned up. There's still a little bit of bugs and work that I need to go through. But what we need to do is we basically would restart these apps, get them back online. We can add new apps, but we can tell that those servers are actually full now. Racks all the way down utilize the resources that you would assume inside of a data center. So all the resources you see right here, CPU, memory, disk storage, power, heating, cooling, all of those resources function in a way that the game understands them like real world elements. So if one of those goes down dramatically, it's going to cost you money wise and app performance. But anyway, so you can mess with the apps, you can add them. The feature right now to add apps is broken, but I'll show it in a second. Then we close out of here, and then that's going to close up the intro and drop into the main game. The house right here that you see, this is the server room that we were just in. It's Joe's house and his garage. So the game initially starts with you inside a garage. Again, this is chips, like I mentioned. Let me get away from chips, and what we want to do is build our first real data center. So build one right here. We're going to stick it right next to the garage so we can grow. This is kind of placeholder object that's been built with Blender and the MCP tool. And so we go inside this guy, and we got a brand new fresh data center with some actual room. You can see that there are hot rows represented in red. There are cold rows represented in blue. You'll notice if you place one of your racks in a hot row, just like in a real data center, you're going to start getting heating, cooling performance, not just on this rack, but the racks around it. And that's where you'll start seeing aisles losing their effectiveness in hot and cool, because the air is actually calculated as a fluid or as a flowing liquid versus an on-off like electricity in the logic. So it gets really cool with how we handle it there. So let's place a rack, and once a rack is dropped down, we can place two of them, fill it all up, depends on what our budget is. From there, we go inside the rack, and we're right back to where you saw the rack view. But this time, if we come over here, should be able to add servers. Oh, no servers. I got a bug. Let's see, no apps. Oh, it's still really broken. But so far, that's what we got. I hope you enjoyed.